know if you've ever done this or not, but you buy a piece of music. It used to be a record in the days that I would do it, and now it's a CD or a download or something like that. But you had this favorite song of all time, and you played that song over and over and over again until you were sick of it. You remember that? And the nice thing about a record or a CD on a song like that, we could stop playing it any time and we could find peace, or our mothers could find peace. But what about the record that you're playing in your own mind, you know? Our own thought, that same pattern of thought that's just repeating itself over and over and over again with no end in sight. And the tune being played is definitely one that we don't like. It doesn't serve us, it doesn't help us in any way, it doesn't lift us up, and it does not heal us. It's almost to me like people live their mental life on a merry-go-round, you know, in their own thinking, in their own mind. No new thoughts, just the same old thoughts over and over and over again, round and round and round. It's exhausting to listen to and absolutely unproductive. So I hope and I trust that you are interested and concerned about what you think, especially about yourself, and that you understand why this is important to you. Because if you don't feel good about you, it's going to be very difficult for good things to happen in your life. It's going to be very difficult for good to come to you. It's going to be very, very difficult for the universe to bless you in any way if you don't feel good about yourself. And I know that some people will say that they're not that concerned about what they think about themselves. But if somebody else says or thinks something about them, then this has a very, very big effect on their life. But really, here's the thing. What you think about you has the greatest effect on your life experience. Why? Because you're with you all the time. You're everywhere you go. There you are. You're with yourself all the time from the minute you get up in the morning until you go to bed at night. So your influence on you is actually much greater than anybody else's. So I trust that we are living then in alignment with the patterns of thought that we generally maintain. In the Science of Mind textbook, Dr. Holmes tells us that it is the general thinking, the general tendency of our thinking that manifests. The general tendency of our thinking is what manifests. So we do live in alignment with the patterns of thought that we generally maintain. So really then, it's not about if you occasionally would have some bizarre, wacky, negative kind of thought out there. You don't need to be worrying and obsessing about that. In the course of a day, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts. It's about the ones that we generally maintain and the general thinking, tendency of our thinking. So the question begs, what are you dwelling upon in your life right now? And I trust, and I hope, and I pray that it's not ill health, or failure, or lack, or something like nobody loves me and no one ever will. That blah, blah, blah stuff. Because if you are, then it's no wonder that you don't seem to get away from those experiences in your life. How many people do we know who dwell on ill health? And then they suddenly get better, and the next thing you know, they're sick again. Or people are in a relationship, and it's a bad relationship. It really is. They're like my relationship. They finally bring an end to that relationship, and they get closure. And then they jump right into another one that's just as bad. And they go, oh my God, it's just like this is the same as the one I just got out of, only it's a new body on this one. How did that happen? Why does this always happen to me? No wonder, honey. No wonder you can't get away from those experiences. What's going on in your mind? Now, there's little that we can do about what other people think about us. And the thing about that, it's not our business anyway. So if we become aware of that, we just accept them and bless them, and we send them the little love prayer. I accept you, I bless you. I accept you, I bless you. It'll bring you greater peace, and that's about all we can do. But here's the thing. We can do a lot about what we're thinking about ourselves. We really, really can. And let me tell you that we cannot afford to think of ourselves in any way that does not maintain the best possible mental picture for our life experience. If you're thinking about yourself in some way that is not absolutely supporting a life of well-being and love and wholeness and health and abundance and satisfaction, that just doesn't serve you, and it's not worthy of you. There are enough difficulties in everyday living without creating additional ones by having a negative nature to our thoughts. There's enough stuff to deal with that we have to redeem and we have to lift up and try and improve without us adding to it. Now, here in LA, people are way interested in people of influence. Aren't we though? I mean, we really are. Oh, they have a lot of influence, and oh, they have influence over there. Well, you can be a very influential person, you know? If you start influencing your thought in the right direction, you will become an extraordinarily influential person in your own life. It's true, you will. You know, I spent a lot of time down in Florida this last week watching TV. And you know, a group of people who has really come into being quite influential in the past few years are the chefs on the Food Channel. Right? I mean, maybe it's only with me. You know, I love the Food Channel, and I love the chefs on the Food Channel. I think they're part of my family. You know, Paula Dean and I go, yeah. Alton Brown, the Barefoot Contessa, and Rachel Raye, all part of my family. I love them. And I pray their shows stay on. And they keep putting those recipes out because they adore them and they inspire me. But it's an interesting thing to me. It's very funny that when you watch the Food Channel, the commercials in the midst of the Food Channel of all these fabulous recipes are often for Jenny Craig, and Nutrisystem, and Slim Fast. You know, and I think about this, and it shows me how at odds we are with ourselves. And even though, like, the whole world is food conscious, you know, and we have this extraordinary food consciousness growing up and all of this sort of stuff that's emerging all the time, we're at odds with ourselves about this. And I think to myself then, well, if this is true around something as silly as food, then it's probably true about other things in my life also, where I say one thing and then I end up doing another. Or I think I'm going in one direction and everything I'm doing is rowing my boat in another direction. It's crazy making. Now, I'm sure that the majority of our population is concerned about some kind of diet, because people are always talking about it. You know, this is a continual issue for some people. What to eat, what not to eat, when to eat, low carb and no carb, and some carb, and fish, and no red meat, and, you know, on and on and on and on. Dark chocolate, walnuts, blueberries, you know, just whatever. But I don't think really, when we look at it, that much is done about the food eaten. But the subject does provide an endless conversation for many of us. I mean, it does. So I think it's safe to say that mostly a diet ends up being more food for thought rather than food for the body. And here's the thing. If you eat food in the spirit in which it's prepared, in which it's given, it can only bless you. Food is one of those things. You have to receive food in good consciousness, because if you receive food in the consciousness of, oh, I shouldn't eat this, or oh, that's bad for me, or oh, what? First of all, everybody else around you wants to kill you, and they just don't want to hear it. So either say, no thank you, none for me, and shut up about it, or bless it and eat it. Just bless it and eat it. You can't gain weight doing God's work. You can't. It's when you're doing something that's not of God's work that you gain weight. When you think that you're doing something wrong. So what kind of food then are we feeding our mind? That's what I'm really talking about here today. Not our stomach, our mind. What kind of food are we feeding our minds? We give our minds lots to consume without any consideration of if it's good or bad. It could be pleasant, it could be beneficial, or not so. So the best way to change undesirable situations is to completely change the mental diet that we're on. We need to switch our brand of ideas from what we don't want to what we do want. Perhaps the most important factor in our life today is the mental diet that we live on. Why? Because the food you fill your mind with determines the character of your life. It really does. The food you fill your mind with determines that character of your life. It's so important that we get that. What you dwell on make you and your surroundings what they are. Everything in life today, our health, our wealth, our home, our happiness, is conditioned by the thoughts and the feelings that we have entertained in the past as a habit. So again, it's not about some crazy, harebrained, wacky, stray, bizarre thought that you had last Tuesday. Ernest Holmes tells us it's the general tendency of your thinking. I have a quote on my bathroom mirror. Our habits create our destiny. And I read that every day. Our habits create our destiny. And our future will be conditioned by what we habitually think and feel today and from now on. And this is really great news, because what am I thinking right now? If I would be aware of that, what I'm feeling right now, that's what's shaping my experience. That's what's shaping my future. So in a sense, yes, absolutely, you choose your life. You choose the conditions in your life when you choose the thoughts that you dwell on. I'm not saying that you out and right just go and choose a specific condition, but you do choose the conditions when you choose the thoughts you dwell on. Because the thoughts you dwell on make certain experiences welcome. They make it a very attractive place for those experiences to come forth. There's something within you very often, because of the thoughts that you're thinking, that resonate with a particular experience that allows it. So we teach in the science of mind that thought is the causative force of life. There are no other outside forces that cause things to happen. So you can't have one kind of a mind and another kind of experience or environment. It's just not possible. You can't change your life without changing your mind. This is a key. This is a key to life. Knowing that, oh my God, if I want to change my life, I have to change my mind. And if you change your mind, your conditions out here in the world of effect must absolutely change. If you change your mind, your experiences will change in your body, your experience will change in your work, your experience will change in your home, in your relationships. It's just like this. If you're habitually happy and up kind of a person, it's because of the mental food that you're giving yourself that supports you being an up and happy kind of person. And if you're habitually sad and down, it's because of what you're feeding yourself that keeps you sad and down. But let's be clear. If you change your mind, your conditions must absolutely change. Paul said in the Bible, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." And this is actually a cosmic law of the universe, that as you put it out there, that's how you get it back. So the difficulty is, or at least what I think the difficulty is our thoughts are so close to us that without practicing in the most conscious way that we can, it's difficult to stand back and see them objectively. Remember, everywhere we go, there we are. Our thoughts are always with us. And so we may think, well, I think I'm pretty optimistic about things most of the time. I think on the affirmative side of life. I think I'm thinking great thoughts of health and well-being and love and abundance. But not always. So here's what we have to train ourselves to do. We have to train ourselves to choose the subject of our thinking at any given time. And the emotional tenor as well. And yes, you can choose your moods. Absolutely. If you couldn't, you wouldn't have any input into the creative expression of your life at all. So the moods that we have habitually produce our disposition. Let me say that again, it's important. The moods that we have habitually produce our disposition. And that finally makes or breaks our happiness. So if you're in a bad mood most of the time, you'll notice you're rarely happy. Duh, you know. But if you do the thinking that supports you in being in a good mood the greater part of the time, your experience of happiness will be greatly enhanced. You can't be happy and healthy and abundant with a bad disposition. You just really can't. And I know some of you out there are just kind of challenging that. You're challenging that in your own mind, and you're saying things like, well, I know somebody who's really got a horrible disposition and they seem abundant. This is not about them. This is about you. And if you would get your nose out of their business and focus on what you're thinking and the emotional content of your life, you would find that you are so much happier. And you're no longer interested in poking your nose in their business and wondering why they have what they have and you don't. Let it go. The point is, you can't be happy and healthy and abundant with a bad disposition. Bottom line. If you are sulky and surly and cynical and cranky and depressed and frightened, that is no way to live your life. Don't you want something better? Isn't it time? You have to be determined right now to cultivate a good disposition, or just give up hope of having anything worthwhile in your life. Good disposition, or give it up. You know? Start now. Start selecting the kind of thoughts that you want your life to reflect, really, or give up hope of having any creative input in shaping your life into the kind of life that you want it to be, the big life, the life you came here to live. Now let's be clear about one thing. It's important. God, Spirit, Divine Mind, the universe wants you to be happy. God wants you to be healthy. God wants you to have love in your life. God wants you to be abundant, to feel like your life is worthwhile. Really. That's the will of the universe, the will of God. But you must do your part. You have to do your part. And part of that is the habit of thought selection, the habit of controlling your thinking. And the process of doing this, in that process, you're going to learn a whole heck of a lot about yourself. And while it takes time and commitment, the good thing is it gets easier with time. And you start to get some good results right away, very, very quickly. So I have homework for us around this. Surprise. I'm going to ask us to devote 1 week, just 1 week, no more, 1 week only, to the task of building a new habit of thought, to make this a really, really important part of your life. And if you do, this will be a turning point for you. I promise you that. Now, in Science of Mind, actually, Dr. Holmes originally called it the science of mind and spirit, because there's a component of mental science and spiritual science to it. And this part is actually mental science. It's a scientific way to change your life. You're working with the spiritual law of the universe, and you don't have to change conditions out here. You just don't. If you apply the law, the conditions will absolutely change. So for 7 days, I'm asking you to not allow anything negative in your mind, to not dwell on anything negative. And I know we're all thinking, because I thought myself when I was writing the talk, I said, the people I know in my life that need to hear this talk. Well, they're not in church today. And this is for you, and this is for me. And we have to watch ourselves just like a dog watches a bird, to not dwell on anything that's not positive and constructive and productive and optimistic and kind and compassionate. Not life affirming, just for a week. That's all, 1 week. And if you really miss it, you can go back at the end of a week to just being the meanest and the crankiest person in the universe. So what I want us to try for 1 week is to sincerely form the habit. And I believe for each of us, if we work on this sincerely, the good is going to come into our life, and everything will be better. Everything. It'll have a lasting effect for us. If you do it sincerely, it will have an effect for the rest of your life. So here's the thing. Let's not start today. We don't want to rush into it. We'll start tomorrow. You can have the rest of the day to think about it. To think about the idea, what is it I want to be focusing on? And to remind yourself that the grace of God guides me. The grace of God guides me. 7 days of unbroken mental discipline to get the mind going in a new direction once and for all. Now, if you fall off, take a break, start all over again, So what's a negative thought? As if you didn't know. Any thought of failure, disappointment, trouble, criticism, jealousy, fear, lack, sickness, condemnation. Do we need to go on? I don't think so. You know what they are. So any thought that's not positive and constructive for you or another person. Simple as that. Now I'm going to tell you, it's not the thought that matters. But do you entertain that thought? Do you dwell upon it? That's what matters. That's what counts. So lots of negative thoughts will come to you all day long. I understand. We're in Earth plane. It happens. We're surrounded by other people. There's a race consciousness going on. We have our own history and baggage and negative and limited thinking going on in our person. Blah blah blah. It's just some drift in. Some is going to come from the race consciousness. Some from our past. Some people willingly give us, negativity, and we just suck it in. There's TV, there's the news, but it doesn't matter as long as you don't entertain them. That's the distinction. Now you'll see those things. They'll crop up, and that's okay. It really is. It's just fodder for you to change your own consciousness. Bless it. Well, what will I do if I'm not focusing on those things? Think about God instead. If you were just sitting around at a campfire and a spark jumps out at you and just lands on you. You don't just look at it, and you don't go into that, why did the fire pick me? Out of all the people sitting around the campfire, why did the spark pick me? It always happens to me. What's in my consciousness that attracted the burning ember? Da-da-da-da-da. No. Just flick it off. Just flick it back into the fire. And if you do that quickly, it's not going to cause any damage. It's amazing. So you'll notice, there's a negative going on in my mind. I'm really tempted to be judgmental here. I want to join in the fun and be critical. Don't. Think about God instead. What do I say? What do I say? How do I do that? Say, God is the love that I am. God is the love that I am. Just for a week. Just for a week. And at the end of the week, if your life is not better, you can go back to the old way. Now we're still in life. We still have duties. We have responsibilities. And I realize that. You have things that you need to handle and people that you have to interact with. And some of those things and people are going to get on your last nerve. But don't let the negative move you. If you're driving and you come across an accident, well, offer help, of course, do a treatment, put up flares, call 911, or, do what you need to do. But keep the right thought about it, and you'll still be with the program. If things come up or go wrong, buckle in, but refuse to take and take an appearance and make that a reality. Refuse to do that. In the scripture, it says, judge not by appearances, but judge righteous judgment. And righteous judgment is to know that this too is of God. This too is of God. And remember, nothing said by anyone can throw you off. Nothing, really, it can't. Only your reaction to what somebody does or says can throw you off. You're in charge. So starting tomorrow, for 1 week out of a lifetime, for 1 week, think about God instead. That's your assignment. You're going to think about God instead. You're going to say, God is the love that I am, or some such statement of truth that you feel comfortable saying that really supports you in having a better life experience, that supports you in living the life you came here to live. And so it is.